everybody. Welcome. It's Thursday night. Welcome to the Cantina Happy Hour. Pull up a stool, have a drink, and let's talk about some Star Wars. I am your host, David. We're glad you joined us tonight. With me, as always, is my co-host, Debbie. Debbie, how are you this evening?
Doing well. Excited to talk about this. I love
Oh,
documentaries.
and this one just was all kinds of great. But we'll get into that. Also with us tonight, as he always is, Andrew. Andrew, how are you?
Doing good. Same as Debbie. I'm excited to talk about this documentary.
Cool. And a very, very special guest star this evening, Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. I said that right, Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well said. Yes.
How are you this evening?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. I also love documentaries.
Nothing wrong with it. You know what the good part about documentaries is, and this kind of just play. You really don't have to watch them. You can really just kind of turn them on as background noise and listen to them, because it's almost like listening to a podcast. They're just kind of explaining what is going on. So I don't know. It's just
I agree.
like you can turn them on. I could be sitting at work and just turn one on,
Sure.
put my phone aside,
And these types of documentaries were kind of like my textbooks when I was growing up, wanting to learn everything about the behind the scenes of stuff, of movies and things like that. So it really, I absorbed as many as I could back in the day. And this is obviously one of them.
And they don't really do that anymore.
No, I mean, not as detailed as this. I think the last really good one I remember watching was when they released one of the versions of the original trilogy, was called From Star Wars to Jedi, the making of something.
The making of a saga. Yes.
There you go. Yeah. And that was like the last one they did. And now they have, when all the directors are sitting around the round table, and they do a little bit of that, which is fine. But I really liked when they got down and dirty and really explained things. Those were my favorite.
Yeah, because they're like 2 hours long. And it's just like, it was great stuff. I mean, back when they did, because I watched another documentary. It was Star Wars, the Mythology, done by the History Channel. And I mean, over 2 hours of just people explaining. Of course, most of them, they were all scholars and book authors on Star Wars and whatever. And it was just so interesting. I mean, usually I turn on a show at work and I'm doing paperwork and whatever while I'm listening. But that one, even though I've seen it probably a billion times, I just sat there and I was just like, oh. Why don't they do this anymore to any movie, especially franchise movies?
Now you said you called out from Star Wars.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, because you called out from Star Wars to Jedi, which was, I own that movie on VHS. Love it. That was, if you were to ask me to watch a Star Wars movie and you picked that one for some reason, I would watch it all day long. I love that one. In fact, we may need to watch that one and talk about. I think it's on YouTube actually, but another one that they did, and I don't know if you caught this one in the when you bought the episode 1 DVD, the second disc had a huge long documentary about them. It's Lucas and Rick McCollum, and they're basically, it starts off with him. Okay, I got to sit down and start writing, and then it shows, and then it, them picking the cast and going over all this stuff. Ewan McGregor getting his hair cut, and just all this really, really cool stuff. And I mean, just all this behind the scenes.
Well, it's funny that you should mention DVDs, because obviously now that things are streaming, there's no need for extras on a DVD. So I think that's one of the major things that has changed, for us geeks that love watching those behind the scenes, because you would always get an extra DVD with like special stuff behind the scenes, or interviews, or premieres, or
blooper reels.
Yeah, blooper reels, or even the director's commentary during the movie. You can kind of get an insight into, the making of, or what was going on during this or that. And I think that's unfortunately, that's another fallback for streaming versus, physical media.
Now, I think you can go back on Disney Plus, if you go under the extras tab on some of
Yeah,
these
but they're
movies,
nothing like.
it's not as
It's
good.
1 minute here, 2 minutes here.
Right.
If you're lucky, 4 minutes.
Yeah, because Max does the
nothing.
same thing with their shows. It's like 5 minutes, and it's like the
At
making
the
of.
end, yeah, at the end, and those
Yeah.
are fine too. Like I remember watching the Penguin, and
Mhm.
they had like a little behind the scenes of each episode, which is nice because you get kind of a little insight into the making of that particular episode versus a whole movie. But yeah, I really miss those.
Gotta say, I do too. Well, Debbie, I told you wrong on Monday, and I apologize for this. So on Monday, I said that this particular documentary came out with the Blu-ray sets. I lied. When Star Wars was first released on DVD, when the original trilogy was first released on DVD, it was September of 2004 was the first DVD releases, and it came with 4 discs. It had the 3 movies, and then the 4th disc was like the blooper reels, the gag reels, but it was Empire of Dreams. This was the documentary that was on that 4th disc. So I'm sorry. I
How am I ever going to trust you again?
I
I
don't
mean,
know, but I knew
the
it was
trust
there
is
somewhere.
broken. Our bond
And the only
is done.
You'll
And the
no
only-
longer think alike anymore.
I know. And the only reason that I remember this is as I was watching it, I'm looking at it going like, man, everybody looks so young.
Mm.
And then I was like, oh, that's right. This came out with the DVD copy. So this came out in 04 versus what 13 or 14 whenever the Blu-rays first came out. Oh, it wasn't that late. Maybe 2012, maybe. 2011, 2012, something like that. So
Mhm.
I was just like, man, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I had to go back and look it up, and I was not disappointed. But this really kind of just it dealt a lot with the original 3 films, and g- d- I watched this document. Kitty, go away! You're killing me. She won't leave me alone.
It's like
She's eating me from below. Feel like that chicken Jaws. Ah, ah, ah. But a lot of it too was like I just watched these scenes, and they put the music to them, and they're showing the clips from the movies, and I'm just like, it gets me pumped and excited. It's like I need to go back and watch Star Wars again, and I don't care which one. I just want to watch one now.
It's funny because when Andrew asked me to join you guys and told me what it was, I literally texted him back and I said, are you asking me to cry on screen? Because it does. It gives you that type of
Yeah.
emotion. I mean, those clips when they start like a little behind the scenes and you have the music kind of come in. And it's it is emotional. Obviously Star Wars has captured our hearts and our soul. I always say on the podcast, if you cut me, I bleed Star Wars, but it is definitely kind of reliving what from the past and how this series of films came to be. It's just, I mean, if there was a definition of lightning in a bottle, I mean, this is it.
They had, and that was one of the big things too with me was, you mentioned about the crying on screen, and there are several really tense and emotional moments within Star Wars, but you watch something like this and that tense and emotional moment is, but then you hear the actors, you hear the directors, the writers, and everybody saying, this is what we were thinking as we were I mean, it just adds that level of emotion to the whole thing, and you're just like,
Yeah.
it hurts even more now. So
Well, I mean, even watching the actors talk about things that happened. I mean, I got teary-eyed when Carrie came on. I was just like, damn it. And then James Earl Jones came on, and I was like, that was more recent. I was like, oh God, it just tugs at the heart. It was just like
Kenny Baker for that matter.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
think
Peter Mayhew, a lot of them.
Peter Mayhew. The only thing we've got left is we've got Harrison, Mark, and Anthony. I think that's about it from the Billy D's still
Billy
around.
D. Yeah, Billy D's
We'll,
around.
we'll count him, even though he wasn't in the first movie. We'll still count him. So, I mean, he blew up the second Death Star. We got to count him. So
Sure.
He
He's
helped
kinda-
a little bit.
Yeah.
he's kind of important to the story.
He gets to join the pizza party. Yeah.
So, and
He
and
brought the
drank-
Colt 45.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and
There
he
you
drank
go.
Colt 45.
How
Oh,
dare
good.
us
We're
forget
still in
Billy
sync,
D.
Dave. That's good.
Yeah.
If you ever need a good laugh, go look up Billy D's Colt 45 commercials on YouTube. I'm sure they're there. I haven't looked them up myself, but it wouldn't surprise me. They're amazing. But anyway, so let's get into it. We start with Star Wars, obviously. It spent a lot of time talking about the movies that were on the theaters, on the screens at the time. And it was nothing good. It was all very depressing or post-apocalyptic.
Well-
Kind of like it is right now.
Well, America was depressing back then. I mean,
Sure.
I was a teen during the 70s, and it's like I remember sitting in we had the gas crisis. I remember sitting in my dad's car in line at the gas station. They went by, I don't know if it was last name or part of your plate number. I don't remember. Certain days,
You could go get
were
gas.
certain. Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
I just remember sitting in line, sweating my ass off because Dad refused to run the air conditioner.
Oh
Well,
gosh.
because if you run the air conditioner, that burns more gas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're sitting there waiting your turn. And of course, you had the end of the Vietnam War. Both my brothers were in it. Luckily, they were both home during this time, during 77. But, my mother had passed June of 77.
Mm.
So yeah, it was, the movies were depressing. Everything at that time was depressing. It was not a good time.
Yeah. And then here comes this young filmmaker from USC who has a host of what are now Hollywood legends. He's coming up with Coppola. He's coming up with Spielberg.
It's funny. You think of all the directors' names that were part of that generation. You think about the Avengers and all the superheroes that got together to save the world. I almost equate them as the Avengers of the directing world in movies. You've got all those directors that came in to change the world with their projects.
Yeah.
Spielberg, Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola. I mean, what a group of creators. Those names will live with us for a really long time. And it's funny because I was talking to my co-host regarding, we of a certain generation, look back at movies and we think of directors that have influenced us. And I think, Andrew, I think I was going to ask you about it, or maybe I mentioned it in a podcast. I was really wondering about young people, and do young people have certain people in Hollywood, either directors or actors, that have influenced them the way that these directors have influenced us older fans. I'm always wondering too, because we kind of start thinking about what or who influenced us, and generation after generation, it seems like it's always just like different people, whether it's politicians or actors or directors or people in the community. For me in particular, because of my interest in movies, obviously it was directors. We knew like certain names. To me, they were almost like celebrities. And I'm just wondering, like, Andrew, since you're the youngest, the second youngest in the group here, what do your types look up to? Like, who do you guys look up to? It's interesting to find out.
Well, so I did grow up on Spielberg quite a bit. So there's some older director there. But as far as current, I mean, Christopher Nolan is one that I like a lot. Denis Villeneuve is another one that those are directors where regardless of what they release or do, I'm watching it. You know,
Sure.
I'm trying to think of like more recent directors, but those are two of the main ones you could say within the last 10, 15 years or so that are two of my favorites.
You could probably throw Peter Jackson into that mix.
Yes, yeah.
As far as some of the stuff he's done, maybe
Mhm.
maybe the Russo brothers,
Mhm.
Anthony and Joe Russo, because of their work with the Avengers films,
Sure.
with the Marvel films. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, I was very much anything George Lucas made, I went and saw. Anything Spielberg
Mhm.
made, I went and saw. Even if my parents didn't like it because gremlins are scary and Indiana Jones has people pulling people's hearts out. So
You know what's funny? Again, getting into wanting to learn as much as I could about behind the scenes. That like I was never. I never got into like horror movies. I mean, I watched like Friday the 13th and Halloween because I think they were fun. But like when people say, "Oh my God, it's so gory, it's so scary," like it's different when you know how the sauce is made, if you know what I mean. You
Mhm.
know,
yeah.
so like scary movies to me aren't like really scary. Like that's why I'm not into really like horror movies, like
Well,
Saws or.
it's for that type of movie. It's the gore fest. For me, a
Mhm.
scary
Mhm.
movie is like The Exorcist. The Exorcist
Sure,
terrifies
yeah, yeah,
even to this day
yeah,
terrifies me, and that's not a slasher film by any
right.
It was kind of like there was
stretch
a
of the
horror movie
imagination.
that came out a couple years ago called The Invisible Man. And at
Mm.
first you might think it's kind of scary, but then when you see the behind the scenes, it's literally a guy in a green holding her up and stuff like that. And then so then once you know that and you watch the movie, that's all
Right.
I think of. And then
Mhm.
yeah, it's kind of like, oh, it's not really scary.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so for those of you looking for a Halloween costume for next year, you just need to get you one of those green morph suits
Right. Yeah.
and run around and what are you? I'm the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
You can't see me.
You can't see me. Try to take a picture of me. Ha ha. So
Oh, man.
thrill a minute. But yes, again, it just kind of moves through Lucas' life. When they get to the bit with John Williams, again, if you've watched the
Mhm.
show at any point in time, you know that I am for me one of the things that makes a movie for me that's going to make or break a movie is the soundtrack. If it's not just the score, like Guardians, the soundtrack of Guardian, I loved the soundtrack for the first Guardians, well, for all three Guardians movies, really. Um, but I also love listening to score music. And so when it gets into John Williams and when he's sitting there and you just see him directing with the movie playing in the background, and you
Mhm.
see him directing the London Symphony Orchestra, I'm just like, again, chills
Yeah.
and bumps, just
Chills
because
and tears, seeing a grown man cry.
he's not gone. I mean, he's
He keeps
90.
he keeps coming out of
He's
retirement,
93.
though.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
90 something, 93.
Yeah.
So
Like it's if anyone deserves immortality, it would be John Williams.
yeah. And we talked about this too when we did the documentary on John Williams. I bought my dad for his birthday many years ago like it was like a 4 CD set of like the greatest film scores of all time. And I think half if not more were all
John Williams
John
movies. Yeah.
Williams. So
Sure.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't not scores but like title
Mhm.
tracks or whatever. So, I mean, E.T. was on there. Harry Potter. No, I don't think Harry Potter was around yet. But, Star Wars, Indiana Jones,
Sure.
Jaws.
Yeah.
There was just so many good ones.
Yeah. Hans Zimmer's another one
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Still can't believe he was snubbed of an Oscar, but it's all right.
All of my if I miss your comment, I apologize because all of my comments just doubled on me.
I see that.
I just
I did
noticed
too.
that
Yeah.
it did that
just went
during
double.
Marvel.
Oh,
Remember?
did it? I didn't see that, but
And last week on Cantina did that as well.
well, that's
Yeah,
okay.
Gremlins.
That's just more comments.
Yeah, more comments.
Yeah. Builds up the engagement.
Exactly.
A bad comment is still engagement, so.
So
Now, my question: we got to see some of the audition tapes.
Mm-hmm. Love those.
If we hadn't got what we got out of the ones that we've seen during this documentary, who do you think would have been good?
I think Kurt Russell was pretty good as Han.
now I will agree with you because I did like the Kurt Russell one. I know I heard that Jodie Foster had auditioned for Leia. I don't think we saw her tape on this particular show. I don't think that would have been good. But Kurt Russell, I keep thinking to Kurt Russell, and I mean, he would have been great as Han. I think he would have been wonderful. But had Harrison Ford not been Han, the prime choice for Indiana Jones was Tom Selleck. Well, Tom Selleck couldn't do Indy because he was busy with Magnum PI at the time. But had Harrison Ford not been Han Solo, would he have been an automatic choice for Indiana Jones? And had he not been that automatic choice for Indiana Jones, would they have just said, okay, well, we're going to hold off until Tom's free and then we can make the movie with Tom Selleck instead?
That's a question for Christopher Nolan. Spin the thing.
We need to spin the dreidel and find out.
I don't know. I mean, because I'm a huge Tom Selleck fan, especially back then. But yeah, I don't know. I think Kurt would have been a better choice because Kurt can be snarky and sarcastic, like Han, because we've seen him do it. So I think he would have been a good choice for Han. Now, the ones that they showed for Mark or for Luke's role, I didn't like any of them.
Was William Catt was one of them, wasn't he?
Right.
Yeah, Greatest American Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't like any of them. I was just like, because if you listen to and what I thought was interesting was seeing how each actor
was
approached delivering their lines. And I mean, a lot of them fell dead. But, Mark, him and Carrie, holy crap. I mean, when you seen the other ladies auditioning and then you seen Carrie.
It's like a whole new ball of wax.
Yeah.
One of them was just
Cindy Williams.
Yeah, Cindy Williams.
Yeah.
Shirley, Laverne and Shirley. Yeah.
It's funny. They were in the documentary. They were saying George Lucas didn't want to use, actors that he's already used, and like he auditioned everybody from American Graffiti.
Yeah,
So,
I thought that was funny because he said he didn't want to use Harrison, and then Cindy pops up, and I was like, "You do realize she was in the same movie?"
where was Ron Howard's audition tape? That's what I'd like to know.
Right. Yeah. And it did say that every imaginable actress was auditioning for Leia. I really would have liked to have seen like someone that you would not have expected to audition for Leia in the documentary. That would have been really interesting. Somewhere there's archives that I would love to kind of rummage through.
Let's just storm Lucasfilm Ranch,
let's do it.
Skywalker Ranch and just
you can. It's doable. They did it in that movie.
Exactly.
So
road trip
out to California, storm the ranch.
But I think it showed with the auditions how that no one else could have really played those roles as well as Mark Hamill,
That's who we
Carrie
got,
Fisher.
yeah.
You know, there were actors that would probably be good, but they wouldn't be what we
It
got.
wouldn't be what we're used to because
Right.
we've been so ingrained with it.
Sure. And, kudos to Alan Ladd Jr. too, for trusting the process that George Lucas, started, from, kind of accepting the pitch and telling the uppers, let's trust this storyteller. And even though the studios, I mean, none of the studios, not even 20th Century Fox, was like understanding what the Star Wars project was going to be. Alan Ladd was like, no, I've seen his stuff. I think this might be, this might turn out into something interesting. So let's trust Lucas on this. Even from the actors, when they gave the final list of actors, it was nobody that was known, and the studio was like, I don't know.
That's why you had to have the Alec Guinness character, because
Yeah.
now we've got
And Peter
somebody of
Cushing.
Peter
Right.
Cushing, yeah.
And it's funny because there's an old yearbook in high school that I have somewhere, but it's things that happened in 1977. You know how at the end of the year everybody does their little thing in high school yearbooks. There's a picture of our local movie theater, and it's got Star Wars, starring Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing, because they were like the name brands. Nobody else
Right.
knew Mark Hamill or Carrie Fisher, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of funny they were getting top billing.
But then you roll ahead through 6 years, 1983, and they talked about this in the thing too, about how they had to rename the movie Blue Harvest so that
Right.
they wouldn't get overcharged for things, and everybody thought, well, this is just a crummy horror movie, until Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill show up, and they're like, oh, our bad, this is Star Wars. So, and that was, it's funny that came up, because my brother asked me about that once. He goes, what is Blue Harvest? And that was right after the Family Guy Star Wars episode had aired. And that the title of the episode was called Blue Harvest. He's like, why is it called Blue Harvest for Star Wars? I'm like, well, because
those normies.
Yeah, I know. They don't know. They don't know.
Poor people.
I was like, you silly geek.
Yeah. But do you know what the complete title of the code name for Return of the Jedi was, besides Blue Harvest? There was an added.
It was Horror Beyond Imagination.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just a crummy. Oh, we're just making a horror movie.
Right.
Just a cheesy.
Well, the
horror movie.
Ewoks, it kind of was a horror movie. I mean, why do they have clothes that already fit Leia?
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, and we've talked about this a long time ago. We talked about this. The Ewoks were ready to eat Han and Luke and Chewie. They were going to devour them. They were getting ready to cook. You are to be a feast in my honor, I believe was the exact line.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the movie, they're having this huge celebration because they've defeated the Empire. There's all these empty stormtrooper
helmets,
buckets laying around. I'm going to assume that they were eating. What do you think they were eating? They were eating stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Now,
Stormtrooper steaks.
Now, that being said, Han and Luke and Leia and
Loin
Lando,
chops.
everybody's all there, and you don't want to insult your host, so you just eat whatever they put in front of you, which means that, hey, little cannibalism going on.
Yeah. My apologies.
So, yes, horror beyond imagination.
Aptly titled.
Just saying.
Oh, and give it up to the documentary using Robert Clotworthy as the voiceover from Ancient Aliens.
Is that who that was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You recognize that voice immediately.
I've watched like 2 episodes of Ancient Aliens, so.
My son would probably know that because he loves Ancient Aliens.
Yeah,
he watches it nonstop.
Yeah.
They used a lot of clips too from Star Wars to Jedi. They recycled a lot of the same clips,
Yeah.
especially talking from Star Wars to Jedi dealt a lot with all three movies, but it was mostly Jedi, and that's just because that was kind of that came out right after that movie had been released, so it was like a hey, we made all these other movies, but here's the one that's out in the theaters right now. So here's
Right.
what we're plugging right now. So, but yeah, again, the behind the scenes from Star Wars to Jedi had one of the greatest. I loved watching them work the Jabba the Hutt puppet because again, it's a practical effect. You've got 3 or 4 guys that are inside that puppet making it, breathe. There was a
Move and breathe,
scene
yeah.
in from Star Wars to Jedi where it was like the guy was sitting there and he was like, well, all I do is I smoke this cigar and I blow it up
Right.
the pipe and it makes the smoke come out of his mouth make
Right.
it look like Jabba's smoking. He goes, so basically I get paid to sit around and smoke cigars all day.
Perfect. Yeah.
I was like, nice.
Backwards and forwards. Backwards and forwards.
Yeah. So and it's great. And then seeing what's his name? Tim Roth doing a Salacious B. Crumb with that one where he's talking in his normal voice, but and it's still it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, and of course, a whole lot of emphasis on Carrie Fisher and the iconic can we say slave without getting canceled?
Yeah.
Slave Leia costume. All right.
You may be seeing that in the future on a stream.
You gonna wear that?
No, not me.
No, not him.
Not me.
One of our other ones. He's not here tonight. We can't make fun of him.
Fortunately, not me.
I was gonna tell my Red 5 network people to tune in.
Yeah, on Sunday night. We'll get there.
Yeah.
This coming Sunday will be a good one. What else? A lot of him putting up his own money. It kind of reminds me of, and you see this a lot. And I don't know if you know the backstory. So Kevin Smith, I don't know if he falls in this. He falls in the in between realm of Lucas and Spielberg and all the guys we mentioned. But Kevin Smith, he made Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy and Dogman, all these really hilarious movies. But to make his first movie, he sold like his entire comic book collection just so he could have the money to make his movie. And you see that a lot with independents, to where it's, well, I want to keep creative control, so I'm gonna shell out all the money that I need to make it, and then the money that I make from that movie I'll use to make my next movie, and so on. So, and it just builds and builds and builds. And again, you see that with Lucas. He doesn't want to give up his creative control. He doesn't want to give up the sequels. None of that going. I mean, he wants Fox for sure. You can distribute it, but you're not going to have any kind of say as to how I make it. And
that's admirable. And I think that's why I give people that don't like the special editions, I give them some extra shit, because dude, it's his movie. Let him do what he wants.
I've got a few issues with some of the things that he did.
Sure, yeah, so do I. But here's the thing, I think it pushed the envelope in filmmaking technology. I think if it weren't for ILM and George Lucas, movies would look different. The process of filmmaking would be very different. And I think the fact that, when the sequels came out, I remember a quote from George Lucas. I don't know if it was made up or if he said it, somewhere at an event. He said, The Force Awakens is fine, but it didn't push the envelope. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of the sequels are just like there, whether it's pushing the envelope from a technology standpoint or pushing the envelope from a story perspective. I just think, the sequels are there. They just exist.
Now that poses an interesting question then, because right now we live in an era of CGI, you can make all of these things seem just as real as possible. But that being said, is it possible to push the envelope even further? I mean, is it possible to make those special effects even better?
That's
Because
interesting.
right
So
now,
are you claiming that technology has reached like a glass ceiling and we can no longer go any further?
no, I'm sure that the thought is out there, but what do you do to you've
I think
plateaued? What do you do to climb back? Start
if you
climbing
keep
again?
pushing too much, it's gonna, I think, look unrealistic. Like it's gonna get to a point where I don't know. I feel like CGI and everything will hit a wall of, if you push it further, it's gonna start to look weird and wonky, and it's not gonna look like it does now.
But I think the road to CGI, and I think the road to CGI has always been to make it look like it's not CGI. Like the
Hmm.
best compliment a special effects artists can get is that nobody notices your work.
Yeah.
It's I think, what was that? That was weird.
On your
Dog.
dog.
Yeah. Oh, my stomach, oof.
I'm hungry. It's that chili.
Andrew's house sitting and he doesn't eat there, so
Mm-mm.
they've got pets. Andrew, come on.
But no, I mean, I think the pushing it of technology is always an interesting topic for me, because that's really what kind of pushed me into the career that I'm in, is the special effects of movies. I really enjoyed learning about how it's done, and it was really great learning about that stuff. But what was I saying before Andrew's
Ha-
stomach
ha-
was growling?
Have we have we
Have we hit a wall?
Have we hit a wall? I think the goal for special effects in films like these is always to be photorealistic, so you don't notice it. A really great example of that is the movie The Creator, with that was
Yes.
directed by
Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards of Rogue One. And he didn't want to create CGI special effects that were in studio, so he actually went out to shoot his movie as if he was on another planet or wherever, and then he brought the footage back, and ILM added the special effects in the footage. So, years ago we had Steven Spielberg, who didn't want the camera to be locked down, so he sees the dinosaurs just kind of grow across the field. He wanted to be able to have his shots be realistic, handheld, a little shaking. That was one challenge of ILM to for Jurassic Park, to be able to have realistic camera shots, not just having cameras being locked down so they can work with the computer in the frame. So I think the workflow that the creator and ILM did was a little backwards. You shoot on green screen, you make everything happen in the computer. This time around they actually went out and shot in real locations, and then they added little pieces of sci-fi in the shots without the limitation of one thing or another, especially when it comes to adding things in afterwards and post uh from a process that is 50 years old. So I think that is definitely one way that technology has been pushing forward. And I would think that ILM has learned from that, especially if they're about to embark on new Star Wars movies. Hopefully we'll see some of that process in the future.
I honestly
Well,
think
that's what's interesting about ILM is there's another documentary on ILM that came out last year or the year before.
Yeah, I just get.
I mean, George
stupid.
was wanting these certain shots or certain things to happen. They didn't have the equipment, so what they do? They made them on the
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah.
In order to get what they needed to get, they made the equipment in order to be able to do that. And I don't know if many companies where, okay, director wants this special kind of shot, can we buy it, or are they actually gonna, go out to,
They
I don't even
actually
know
have
if Radio Shack's around anymore, but are they gonna go down to Radio Shack and try and, put stuff together in order to get what they need to get?
we got to get it all from Amazon now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
just true.
that is definitely one of the things that really impressed me about ILM. It's like we don't have a system to get the shot that George wants. Okay, we'll make it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the camera that John Dykstra, the Dykstraflex, created to create these motion control shots where they needed to layer different layers of the shot in there back in the optical days. Now obviously it's all done digitally, but the premise is the same. But I mean, all these folks that just created not only the props and the models, but the equipment that is used to photograph all this stuff behind the scenes. The computer controlled cameras on that Dykstraflex, the original one, is just it's amazing. Just like you think of it, and then somebody actually gets together and makes it. It's incredible. You cannot overstate that kind of talent.
It's like, well, and it's like I harken back to I remember seeing a bunch of this about the first Matrix film back in '99 when they had to come up with a system to where they could do the whole pan,
Right.
360 pan all the way around the room.
Yep.
When Trinity jumps up in the air and it goes, they
Bullet
had
time.
to come up with that
Yeah.
that system, that camera system to make that shot happen. So yeah, very
and that is I guess that would be called kind of like a paradigm shift in filmmaking technology, and it kind of jumps a couple of years, obviously, depending on the director, depending on the movie that comes out, and the concept or a shot that might be needed. One of the things that I remember hearing before the Mandalorian came out is the fact that ILM wanted to get back to basics when it comes to the photography of the miniatures, and the fact that they used miniatures and they went out and then somebody went to the garage and started machining parts for a motion control camera that was smaller than the original one because the miniatures were smaller. But it gave me great joy to be able to hear those interviews talking about how ILM went back to basic. And I know the savior of a lot of movies is computer generated imagery, but the fact that somebody made the Razor Crest and photographed it in a way that was done back in the 70s, I think more Star Wars, I think in general, should go back to that, because even watching the original Star Wars, I mean, there's something about those visuals that really they you can't tell that they were done in the 70s for the most part. I think it's a galaxy far, far away, but you are thrust into this timeline where these things are real. They appear real, and
and they appear real, and the actors can actually reach out and touch them. I mean,
yeah, and for the most part, they were real.
Yeah. I mean, how many times did you see them run up underneath the Falcon and they're running their hands along the bottom of it, or
sure,
just these things where they can actually physically touch them. And in the 70s, you can't do, oh, well, he's just going to stick his hand up there and we're going to computer generate a starship in there later on. That was an actual physical set. And they did the same thing, like you were talking with the Mandalorian, when they built that sand crawler. They built they didn't build the whole 12-story tall thing, but they built enough of it to where we can have stuff happening in front of it, and it'll be a practical effect versus a computer generated something or another.
Yeah, and it's funny, they built another section of the sandcrawler, but I think in the original Star Wars, when they were building the treads out in the desert in northern Africa, I think Libya, because where they were shooting was it was a country next to Libya. It was Tunisia. And Libya was getting a little worried because they thought they were building some sort of military vehicle. I remember reading stories about that and how they had to kind of make sure that Libya didn't try anything funny.
Come and bomb the sandcrawler.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they had to add that part in about these blast points too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise. They did that wasn't planned. That was just Libya came over and bombed it, and they were like, okay, we got to throw something in. So,
Well, and you're talking about practical effects, which brings up Yoda. Because I love that segment when we get to Yoda. They had to build the stage high enough to where the actor Frank Oz could be underneath and control it, along with the other people who are controlling the hands and ears and eyes and whatnot. But and I thought it was funny because George was, I mean, basically he was freaking out because if this doesn't work, we're screwed.
yeah.
And then I think it was Frank that said, if it hadn't been for Mark's performance, nobody would have believed in Yoda.
Yeah.
And-
because for months it was just him and Frank Oz. That's it.
And what made
and
what made it even better was when they were talking about it, and there were points where Kirshner would be talking to Yoda, saying, "Okay, you need to walk over here."
Right, yeah,
Frank saying,
right.
"Hey, I can't hear you. I'm down
Yeah,
here."
Right. Yeah.
So he became such an integral part of that, even though he's just a puppet. You don't think about it. At that point he's come to life, and I could see Mark saying, "Okay, well, this is a real thing. It's going to be very easy for me to act on this as a real person."
Sure.
So
I think that's one of the things, the performance of the actors that were selected. I think that really adds the believability of the film. I think if you're watching this film, and they touch a little bit on it in the documentary, like nobody took it seriously, especially when they went to the UK to shoot at Elstree. It was like, what is this thing? This what is this like a kids movie? Who's this monkey walking around with the rifle, whatever. But nobody took it seriously. But the
it's the latest Sid and Marty Krofft.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But it is kudos to the actors that took the roles seriously and gave us, I guess, some really great insight into how they related to each other as characters, as actors, and then really through the story. I know they all make fun of some of the lines. You can write this crap, but you can't say it. But I think that was part of the charm and the believability of being in this galaxy far, far away.
Was that Hayden's excuse for the sand thing?
That's what my mom says whenever I write a paper.
Yeah.
Write it, but you can't say it.
So, okay, Debbie, keep me on track. What else have you got? I know you've probably got.
You probably wrote like 12
You've probably
pages
got
for this
pages
episode.
of
no,
notes.
I didn't, because I got so engrossed in watching. I only had just a few
Wow.
notes,
Fired.
which is unusual for me because where's my Myra J? I had like what 8 pages of Myra
Yeah,
J.
like
you
8 pages
treat it
on
like a
Mara
school
Day.
project. You write like a
Yeah, here's my Myra Jade and all the papers.
Wow.
You know what? You ought to save all of your notes from all of
Yeah.
these shows, have them bound, and put them in a book.
That'd be
So here's-
cool.
Here's what we
I
talked
do
about.
say
Or we
them.
need to, when we get a website, it could be Debbie's thoughts.
Yeah.
Or Debbie's notes.
Debbie's notes.
Deb's
Yeah.
Well,
notes,
I
yeah.
keep thinking, if I ever get the guts to do my own channel, I have the notes to do what I want to do with
And you
them.
can just read straight from it, word for word.
Well, no, I don't want to read straight
Actually.
from it, but just whatever. Anyways, now I don't know how many movies. I meant to look it up, and then my boss sidetracked me. But so when Star Wars came out, it ran in theaters 135 weeks.
Dang.
Okay.
You're lucky if you get 3 weeks now.
Yeah, right.
So
Before it goes to streaming. Yeah.
I'm trying to think the movie. Okay, so there's a theater in Denton where I live, and it was a 1-screen theater, and it had Star Wars on it. Now, Star Wars was on that theater in Denton, the only screen in Denton, was on that screen all the way up until the next big blockbuster of Superman came out. They took Star Wars
Wow.
off to put Superman on, and Superman came out in 1978.
Right.
So like a year later.
Wow.
Because my dad said, "Oh, we kept waiting for the next movie to come out, for the next one to come out, but they kept bumping it back because Star Wars was always." And you could drive by the theater all the time, and it was like packed. I sent a picture of my dad, or of my dad. Sent a picture of that theater, and it was like May something 1977. The lot was packed. There was a line around the building, and my dad said, "I'm probably parked in there somewhere." That's one of those cars is probably mine.
Yeah.
So
Well, I seen it in, I'm gonna say, I think it was up in West Virginia somewhere, because when we went on vacation, we went wherever a family member was. So at that time, my brother was in the Navy, and he was stationed up Richmond, Virginia, or something West Virginia. I don't know. There was a naval base there, and his ship was in dry dock. So we went up there for vacation, because we didn't stay in hotels. We had to stay with the relative and slept on floors.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said, yeah, we're gonna go see this new movie. It's supposed to be, a big thing and whatever. And I swear to God, we stood in line for 2 hours waiting to get into that movie. Now that was in West Virginia. Well, of course, when I get back home, then we had 2 theaters, and they were across the street from each other. One was, like you said, a one screen theater, and only one movie played. And then when it was done, it moved across the street to the 99-cent movie.
Yeah, the cheap
theater.
movies. Yeah.
Right. So I would make sure I did all my chores so I could go see Star Wars every weekend at the main theater. And then again, once it moved over, went to the 99. Of course, at 99 cents, I could afford to go more than just once a week.
He walked around.
If only tickets were still that cheap.
Oh my
He
God.
walked
Yeah.
around collecting all the Coke bottles and recycling them. And
Yeah, we went around collecting newspapers and Coke bottles, and taking them wherever they went. Well, the Coke bottles went to the local grocery store.
I wish they still had 99-cent movie theaters.
I think we got a nickel a bottle
know,
or something like that. I don't remember, but
Well, hey, 20 bottles, you can go see the movie.
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I probably watched Star Wars at least every weekend.
That's going to be one of the things when I die, I go up and see God. How many times did I actually watch Star Wars? How many times did I see it?
Yeah.
Because
he goes so many times I even lost count.
That was a good impression too, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice.
Well, see, now I gotta be a voice actor. There you go.
I don't know if many movies, like I said, I forgot to look it up to see if any other movies, even within that time period, ran that long.
No,
like Star Wars did.
I don't think they did.
I would say no. Yeah.
No, not. I mean, really, if you really look back on it, Jaws was kind of the first summer blockbuster, because that was one of those ones that, I mean, that was like the daddy of the blockbuster. And then Star Wars happened, and it was like all of a sudden movies were huge.
Yep.
So
you guys I just looked it up. Do you guys want to know what was the movie that lasted in the theaters the most, according to Google?
I'm gonna go with Gone with the Wind.
David, what'd you say?
Gone with the Wind.
And Debbie?
Sound of Music.
Andrew, do you have a guess?
I'm Gone with the Wind, probably.
Debbie got it.
Oh, it's the Sound of
Dang
Music.
it.
Mhm. Staying in theaters for 4.5 years.
Wow.
Jeez. Wow.
It was very popular.
How was that not the highest grossing movie of all time?
Yeah.
Even with
Well,
inflation.
At 99 cents, you got to be there
Well, that's true.
another 10 years.
Yeah, that's true. Man.
That's just craziness.
Yeah. I'm gonna use that question for a Sentry mode.
That is a good question. You should book me for the next one so that I
So
for
you
sure
get
know the
You
answer
know
for
the
that
answer.
one. I know the answer for that one.
Cheater,
I'd probably still forget it, to be honest.
All right. Fan questions. We got a fan question tonight, Andrew.
We do.
Let's
from
answer a fan question.
from Scarif, from the Scarif
Oh,
Scope
hey.
podcast. We kind of touched on it a bit earlier, just a little bit. So the question is, thoughts on the pushing of the envelope when it comes to special effects in movies? Star Wars obviously has its place in history, but what other modern innovations have we seen in movies in the last 10 years? Are we stagnant?
10 years?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Because, I mean, really, you could jump back
Maybe
as
the
far as...
IMAX camera would be I mean, that's something that's slowly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, that's
Chris
not
Turner,
really... Is that really, though, a special effect, or that's just
Oh, well,
a
not
way
special
of
effect, but
view-
like technology-wise is what I
Yeah,
meant.
that's a way of
Yeah.
viewing the film.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because they used it first on The Dark Knight for like the first movie that was filmed completely.
Right.
Was the Dark
yeah.
Knight wasn't filmed completely though in IMAX. It was just certain scenes, some of the
Oh,
action scenes.
I'm trying to think that Nolan did have a movie that was filmed.
But yeah, Nolan. I think
Yeah.
Nolan was the director that filmed something completely.
Mhm.
Was it Inception? That would make sense.
Yeah,
It might have been. I think
it might have been.
Oppenheimer too was completely filmed in IMAX. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'd go back 92 when we'd mentioned Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
I think that was...
and again, those are like paradigm shifts too that come in every so often. So you've got 92 Jurassic Park,
Mhm.
you've got 92 Bullet Time, right? You've got
prior to that even, I mean, you can jump back as far as 92 was also Terminator 2. And that's where
Yeah.
you've got the metal and the shifting of all that.
Right,
But
yeah,
prior to that,
morphing technology.
you had The Abyss, and you had well, we talked about it on Sunday. Willow was one of the really big ones where they had the
Right.
shape shifting
Right.
stuff going on with Willow.
Mhm.
So, and that was...
Yeah, and I always
maybe-
know it's good. I always know it's good CGI when I'm watching a movie. Like the first time I watched Jurassic Park was like 3 years ago, and I was like, "Wow, these dinosaurs they look really good."
3 years ago was the first time you ever watched it?
Yeah,
They still hold up, right?
Jeez, Andrew.
Yeah.
You've been
Well,
living under
Are
a
you
rock.
kidding me?
I was not introduced to it. My parents are not like big movie people, so a lot of these movie franchises I discovered on my own. I mean, it wasn't like I was introduced to them.
I think I saw...
He hasn't seen
yeah.
Wrath of Khan yet.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
I haven't seen a Star Trek.
Go watch Wrath of Khan. For God's sake.
No, you have to watch
I gotta
Space Scene
watch.
first.
Right, Space
Yeah,
Seed.
Then
Space
watch
Seed
Wrath
first,
of
then
Khan.
watch Wrath of Khan.
Yeah,
Then,
Yeah.
but
that's too funny. But fast
Jeez.
forward, and then you've got James Cameron and all those water movies,
the Avatar.
Avatars, right?
Yeah.
That's another paradigm shift, like it or not.
Movie's beautiful.
The only thing I
even if
liked
you don't
about
like it.
the thing that appealed to me most about Avatar was the fact that that was like the first movie. I say the first movie that was done in like the 3D to where it was
Mhm.
Designed for it.
it was designed for it, and
Yeah.
it looked good. It looked amazing.
Yeah.
And man, when that movie came out on DVD or Blu-ray, I don't remember which I was after at the time, but I wanted a copy of it. I said, I want this movie. Okay. I said, I want the 3D copy of the movie. Well, you got to have a 3D TV. I'm like,
Mhm. And
why?
a 3D Blu-ray player and the 3D glasses.
but
Well,
the
PlayStation 4 plays 3D Blu-rays.
but
which I didn't know.
regardless, all that aside, I was like, so I got to buy all this extra crap to watch because
Yeah.
the only pull part for me was the 3D, was watching the special effects and the 3D on that,
Right.
because the story had been done a bazillion times. That was Ferngully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah. You know,
Mhm.
the other paradigm shift I think that's maybe on the horizon is movies that are designed for virtual headsets.
that would,
Three-
yeah, to where you're actually
360.
in the movie.
Yeah.
That would be kind of interesting. There was one
I like
there was
that.
one movie that I really, and I saw it once like eons ago. I think it was called Hardcore Harry. And that one was interesting. If you get the chance to watch it.
Wait, remember this is a family show.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
If you're over 18 and you get the chance to watch it, it was interesting because it was all filmed in first person.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
so it was
interesting.
like it was like playing Doom or Wolfenstein or something.
Mhm.
But you never saw the actor who was
Oh,
the
that's
lead, because
interesting.
you were the actor that was the lead. It was all
Oh, wow.
you looking around and everything. So that was interesting. It was a clever take on things.
Mm-hmm.
Not
That's cool.
necessarily anything groundbreaking as far as special effects goes, but still an interesting concept nonetheless. I think that's what it
Cool.
was called.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's, you know, as far as, you know, pushing the technology forward, I think it's really gonna be about, you know, who directs what. I think those kinds of advances in filmmaking really are dictated by the story of the film at the time. You know, what the director wants to do. You know, it's funny because I always when I'm in downtown Chicago and I see the drawbridges go up, I get reminded of Inception and how Christopher Nolan, when he was shooting the Batman movies, he saw one of our drawbridges go up, and that's where he got the idea for a lot of the special effects where the cities kind of fold in on each other. Because that's what it looks like when you're going down LaSalle Street and you see the LaSalle Bridge open up. You're there. You're in Inception. So it's again, it's just, you know, whatever the ideas and the concepts are of the directors and writers. I think that's when we'll see you know, new innovations. And I think that's why I don't like a lot of these reboots, because they aren't really offering a lot of new stuff. And you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know, there's nothing new because everybody's getting rebooted, but then again, audiences are not trusting new stuff for whatever reason, you know. And it's too bad. I think as audiences, I think we should give you know, new directors and new movies a chance to, I don't know, to be seen and to be felt, really.
Yes.
Excellent.
If you watch enough movies, you'll have enough great original movies out there that
Sure.
you'll come across. So, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, Debbie, shameless plugs. What do we got tonight?
Tomorrow night I'll be over on the Geek and I podcast discussing Space Seed.
Tracy,
Oh, nice.
Great episode.
you don't know. Miss Haley,
Fire up your
son. He needs to go watch Space Seed, and he needs to go watch Wrath of Khan.
Fire up your
I know you're still
Blu-ray
watching
and
because you
your
just
Paramount. Exactly.
I know she was quoting Goblet of Fire. That's my boy.
Saturday we have the Geek Gauntlet. Sunday over on the Cam and Focus YouTube channel. I don't even know what movie
Enemy
you guys
Mine.
are discussing.
Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine.
Enemy
That's
Mine.
right. Because I was like, I need to go watch that.
With Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr.
Yes.
And
But that's not why you want to watch.
That's not why you want to watch.
That's not why you want to watch.
No.
You know, I don't know if I want to see Cam in a bikini.
Cam, with a little help from his friends, Cam reached his quota, his goal for subscribers, and he will be doing the episode in the Princess Leia gold bikini from Return of the Jedi. It's going to be
Hopefully,
awesome.
it's warmed up in Florida because he has no heat in his little shed. So, or his man cave, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah. So then that's Sunday. And then Monday, we are back with episode 9 and 10 of Daredevil season 3. We're trying to get through these before Born Again comes on.
It's a mad dash to the finish.
And Captain America.
And yes, Captain America. Yes. Tuesday, I'll be over on the Sith Dominion talking Star Wars again. I don't know what. I haven't seen. I don't think he has anything scheduled yet. And then Wednesday, More of the Stars will have an episode. Captain's Logs and Lightsabers dropped a new episode. I think it was Tuesday they dropped an episode.
Tuesday, yeah.
Was it Wednesday? Tuesday, Wednesday? I don't know. And then we'll be back here, and I don't know what we're talking about yet.
Actually, next week, this is a programming note, because next week we will actually be doing the Cantina Happy Hour on Friday instead of Thursday, because Friday is February the 7th, and that is Star Wars Podcast Day 2025. Right. So we will be participating in that. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to steal Debbie from you again one more night. At least one more night.
Well, so at least it won't be the Space Seed episode.
Yeah, you can count yourself lucky. It's not Space Seed, so I apologize. I don't know if you're watching or not, but if you do, you can comment and let me know and gripe at me. I don't care. But
it's a taste of Armageddon. I think I'm safe.
Right. Oh yeah, you are.
So we will be participating in Star Wars Podcast Day 2025. So we will be doing our show on Friday night instead of Thursday night next week.
At 9 or 9:30?
8:30 Central, yes. Regular time, different day.
I don't know how the Star Wars Day thing works. It's like people just doing shows all day long.
I guess. I don't know.
24-hour live stream, you know.
Debbie, you're required to wake up at 6 a.m. and then go all the way to 9 p.m. that day, just talking about Jar Jar Binks, and that's it.
Maybe simply.
No, why The Last Jedi is our favorite Star Wars movie.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, maybe if it was the Harrison Ford, I could talk about all day. No problem. No problem whatsoever.
Harrison Ford and Tom Selleck. We just go back and forth between those.
Yeah. Pros and cons.
Andrew, do you have anything shameless plug wise?
Nope. Debbie already said it all.
Debbie got everything for you. Ro, you got anything?
I'm sure I forgot something.
We'll figure it out. You got anything for a shameless plug?
Yeah, I just dropped a new episode this morning. My friend from up north in Canada, Heidi from Costume Cinemato. We recorded and released an episode. We talked about movie costumes. She does a lot of interviews of costume designers from the film and television market, and I was just questioning her, and we discussed some of our favorite movie costumes, the process, and kind of the design work that goes into making an iconic movie costume. The process is, again, behind the scenes stuff is all fascinating to me. And we discuss some of that. You know, we're always in cahoots with Prop Store, and we're going to be doing another live show with them. I'm not sure if it's their UK office or their Los Angeles office, but they're I think in February they're doing another auction. We're getting a sneak peek. A lot of Blade Runner 2049 items from the movie that are being auctioned off, and we're going to get a sneak peek of some of the items there. Awesome. And then I think my friend Dave from What Does Star Wars Mean to You, we're going to do a Scarif Live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So stay tuned for that one and see what funny things we say to each other.
Cool. That's all over on the Scarif podcast. Where do we find that at?
You know what? Just turn over to your smart speaker and ask Siri to play the latest Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, or look for Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast on YouTube.
Say, I need that scuttlebutt.
I need that scuttlebutt.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, that is going to do it for us tonight. Y'all all have a great, wonderful night. We will see all of you next week right here on the Cantina Happy Hour. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Mash the little bell for notifications so you know when we go live. We will see all of you next week. May the force be with you all.
That's him. He's the one who destroyed Khan.
You call Han Solo a bitch, man.
Han Solo is a bitch. No one calls Han Solo